The Andy Griffith Show. This is a great example of classic TV, a classic TV show. It's about a local sheriff, which is basically for that town, they just have a sheriff. They don't have a marshal or police officer necessarily. They call it the sheriff, right? Because it's such a small town out in the country. And the sheriff's elected, and he has a helper, a deputy. The sheriff was played by Andy Griffith himself, and he's kind of a different kind of sheriff in that he's real people friendly. For instance, he doesn't wear a gun, usually. And he says the reason why is because he wants the people to do what he wants them to do because they respect him, not because they fear him. The show's good. It's less of it's not really a police show, although it's focused around a police department, right? But it's a show about people, about all the interactions they have and the problems they have. Some serious problems, but mostly, comical problems. It was a comedy. His deputy was played by Don Knotts, and his name's Barney Fife. You might have heard the name Barney Fife, even though you've never even watched the show, because he was a very funny part of that show. He wasn't on it the entire time, but he was on it for a long time at the start. And then later on, he left to do some other things, and they brought on some others. They never really quite captured the funniness and the wit as when Barney was on, but it was still pretty good. If you wanted to show somebody an example of a classic TV show, this is a good one to use because it ran for a lot of seasons. A lot of people liked it. Like I say, it's about a sheriff, but it's not really about police work that much. It's mostly about just dealing with people. Andy Taylor, he was it's the Andy Griffith Show. That's the name of the actor, but the character he plays is Andy Taylor. I don't know why they even bothered to change the name, but he had lost his wife. I'm not sure they ever tell us why or how, but she passed away. They never really, I don't think they've ever shown a picture of her or anything. But some of the show deals with how he deals with that and moving on in life. He's got a son on the show named Opie, and that's Ron Howard, who later became a really great director. And even Ron Howard's brother was on the show a few times. I don't remember his name, but he wasn't on much. He was like a guest every once in a while. Like I say, the show's really funny. If you want a show that would capture the spirit of TV at that time, this does it really well. Since he was now a widower, his aunt came to live with them to be the woman of the house. And that her name in the show was Aunt B. I don't remember the name of the actress that played her, but she's really nice old lady in the show. But from what I understand, that actress was kind of hard to deal with. She was a little bit of a prima donna. The deputy Barney Fife. What was funny about him was he couldn't really. He was kind of a little bit of a goofball. He would make comical mistakes. He was almost like the Gilligan of the show. If you were going to make a comparison to Gilligan's Island, he would be Gilligan. He'd be the one messing stuff up. In fact, Barney wore a gun all the time. But he was so irresponsible with it that Andy wouldn't let him keep his gun loaded. Because a recurring event that would happen was he would accidentally fire his gun while trying to either take it out of the holster or put it back in. He did that very frequently. And so Andy, to try um, to bring down the frequency of that occurring, would not let him have his gun loaded, and would allow him to have only one bullet that he had to keep in his shirt pocket for an emergency. But he couldn't have it loaded, couldn't have the gun loaded all the time. Um, Don Knotts he was a really funny comic actor during this time, and in real life he was quite a ladies' man, which if you watch the show you would find that hard to believe. But I think in real life, Don Knotts wasn't a lot like the characters that he played on TV and in movies. You know, he always played like a goofball, but I think in real life he was far from that. Like a lot of great actors are, they can portray somebody very far from their own personality. And that's what makes him a great actor. Um, a lot of the storylines involve, Andy dealing with problems with his son as his son's growing up, and so there's a lot of the stories have good life lessons in them. It was a pretty wholesome show. It's funny because back then, a show could be a really wholesome show, even though it had a lot of alcohol in it. Um, there was a town drunk that they deal with all the time, and it's always a comical situation. But no, back then they often used alcoholics and alcoholism as kind of a place to make jokes. You wouldn't see that these days, but back then that was pretty common. You saw that a lot in westerns and really in lots of different shows. But no, if you haven't seen the Andy Griffith Show, you're missing out. You need to watch some episodes. When it started, they were in black and white. Later, they turned to, they started using color because the industry made the transition into color. And to me, and that's true for most of the shows that were around during that period, that the black and white shows just seem more interesting than the color shows. Even though the color is done well and it's beautiful to look at, really. But I don't know. There's something about black and white sometimes that just leaves more to the imagination, and I just find the black and whites more interesting. Also, the color comes along later in the series, so as in most series, most series don't tend to get better with time, at least not a long period of time. For instance, a show may get better in the second or third season, but it's very unlikely that a show's going to get a lot better in the seventh season, for instance. And so maybe why I like it so much is that the shows were just a little better, maybe. Or maybe it's that Andy was more in his prime or something along those lines. I don't know. But I really enjoy the black and whites. I think they're funny. So if you haven't seen the Andy Griffith Show, you should give it a shot.